Diddy is having a hard time, and this trial may be too much for him to take. He is said to have had a heart attack in court right after his son told the truth about him, the same kid who was always there for him. How are you all? I'm King Kong, and I'm taking over my dad's Instagram right now. However, if what people are saying is true, this could be the worst kind of deception. Let's start. Family ties and lies. Diddy's trial started on May 12, 2025, in Manhattan Federal Court. His family, including his children, were there to support him. People have seen Christian, Justin, Quincy, Chance, Jesse, and Delilah in court, making it look like the whole family is there together for this very important trial. But now things get hot. Diddy is being charged with racketeering, plot, sex trafficking, and transporting people to work as prostitutes. At the same time, his son, Christian King Kambmez, is having his own legal problems. I really do mean trouble when I say it. Christian Kambmez was sued in April 2024 by Grace Omar, who used to work as a boat steward. I'm going to keep this family friendly because we have young listeners, but this woman says Christian beat her up on a yacht trip in 2022. To top it all off, she says that Papa Diddy himself hired the boat, like a dad and a kid. I just want to ask some questions. According to Omar's lawsuit, what was meant to be a good family trip quickly turned into a place where people could enjoy themselves. The claim says that Christian, who was very drunk, forced her to take a shot that may have been spiked. Then things quickly went from bad to worse. You guys, there are pictures of Omar's bruised arm in her claim. She says they were caused by Christian grabbing her. It is even said that there is an audio recording of her turning down his approaches. CNN checked a copy of this audio file. People, this isn't just a rumor. It gets worse, though. Omar says that nothing happened after she told the yacht's captain about what happened. Why? Because she says Diddy paid the crew not to say anything. Think about having a dad who would clean up your mess like that. It must be nice to be able to do that, right? Normal people, on the other hand, would get the book thrown at them. What did Christian's lawyer say about all of this? Aaron Dyer, who works for both Christian and Diddy, which is handy, right? They said the case was sexy and had no basis in fact, and they said the plaintiff's lawyer only filed it to get media attention. If you ask me, these are classic ways to avoid. Now, Christian has been seen reading his father's federal indictment in court while Diddy's hearing is still going on. I mean, picture yourself reading about all the bad things your dad is said to have done. That must be awkward, right? Now, though, things get really interesting. Outside of the federal courthouse on May 17, 2025, Christian Kambmez was caught on camera reacting to a bystander who called him Young Diddy and said they were sure his dad would be found not guilty. He said, "Yes, sir," and then he added, "They ain't talking about nothing in court." What do you mean, Christian? There is nothing to talk about in court. I guess Cassie Ventura's story about being abused and forced to take part in your dad's freak shows for years doesn't mean anything to you. I guess Daniel Phillips' story that he was paid to have sexual relations with Cassie while your dad watched isn't true. I guess Dawn Richards' story that she saw your dad hit Cassie with a skill. It is also false. He has the nerve to say that they aren't talking about nothing, while these women are talking about their pain on the stand. It just goes to show how money and power can make you lose touch with reality. When we talk about how Christian acted during the trial, let's talk about how he was partying with his girlfriend on Instagram while his dad was in jail facing life in prison. I mean, really, your dad is fighting for his life, and you're out here drinking and acting cool on Instagram. Make sense of it. It's not just Christian either. His brothers Justin and Quincy have been seen having fun with young Miami, Diddy's girlfriend. What the heck? While most people would stay out of sight if their family was involved in such a big scandal, these guys are having a great time like nothing is wrong. Those are the effects of wealth, folks. It really makes you feel like Succession. These look like the real Roy kids who have nothing to do with the problems that most people have. What if one of us regular people had a parent who was being charged with a criminal crime? We'd be crazy stressed if we didn't post up at the club. They say, "We have some information you might be interested in." I asked, "What is that?" They replied, "Well, the new case says that Christian Kambmez was on the yacht and rapping in the studio while molesting or sexually assaulting this woman. We have the song he was rapping. There are two sounds. there's just the song, and then there's another sound file with the girl screaming and other things. We are going to give you the audio of the song, they said. Okay, I said. Then they told me more. After hearing him rap, I thought, hey, what's up? His rap was about Cassie. You and I beat. I'm not kidding. Could we take a moment to think about this? This claim says that right before the claimed assault, Christian was rapping over one of Cassie's beats. Cassie, the same woman who said his dad abused her for years. It's just too much with symbols there. The disrespect and sense of privilege are teaching behavior patterns that will last for generations. That being said, let's not forget that while Christian is showing off his easy life, real people are being hurt by what the Kemez family does. In one lawsuit, a former security guard says that he was banned from working in the security industry after telling a boss about Christian's alleged attack. Take a look at that. Someone could lose their whole job because they were brave enough to say something about seeing something wrong. I want to make it clear that being charged does not mean you are guilty. The law is there to protect us. But this trend is scary, especially when you think about what's being said in Diddy's trial right now. When we talk about patterns, let's talk about another crazy story about the other Kemez brother. Rodney Lil Rod Jones, a music artist who worked with Diddy, sued Justin Kemez, saying that he was involved in getting girls underage for parties. Again, these are just accusations and not proven facts. But the fact that many of the claims are similar against different members of the Kemez family makes me wonder what was normal in that home. Like how, if you see people act in a certain way all the time, you might start to believe that's how things are. Of course, the most scary thing about all of this is that harmful habits might become normalized across generations. But Christian hasn't just stood by and watched his dad's trial. He did something that made people look twice. In November 2024, Christian took over Diddy's Instagram account and posted more upbeat things like old music videos. Many people thought this move, which was meant to improve his dad's image, was badly timed and manipulative. While more and more serious accusations were made, it's just a bad publicity stunt. It would be silly to think that posting old music videos would make people forget about the important federal charges your dad is facing. Putting that on a broken leg is like putting a band-aid on it. It's not going to make things better. That you are not in touch with things might make things worse. Even though these accusations are true and the trial is still going on, Christian keeps acting like he is not concerned. It's almost like he's copying the public image his father has had for a long time. The thought that a problem can be handled with swagger and confidence. But here's the thing. There's more to this than just star rumors or a PR problem that can be fixed with the right spin. There are real people who have been hurt by these accusations, and they deserve to be heard. The question is whether or not Christian Kemez will ever agree with that. If people say the Kemez family has hurt them, will he continue to stand by his father and ignore their claims? More proof comes in. Okay, we already talked about how Christian Kemez is being sued by Grace Omar, but let's look into what that means in the context of his dad's trial. First, let's be clear about when things will happen. Diddy was caught on September 16, 2024, and charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transporting women to work as prostitutes. After government agents searched his homes and found drugs, weapons, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant in March 2024, this happened. I mean, unless you're running a business who needs 1,000 bottles. At the same time, his son Christian was busy with his own court problems. In the April 2024 case she filed against him, Grace Omar says he abused her on a yacht rented by the Kemez family in December 2022. This is where things get interesting. In his case, Omar doesn't just name Christian. It also names Diddy as a defendant and says he is responsible because he rented out the boat and made it a party-like place. She basically saying that Diddy made it possible for what she says happened to her. That claim makes a lot more sense when you look at the trends that are coming out of Diddy's trial. In her testimony, Cassie Ventura talked about a guy who made places where rules were regularly broken, often with drugs. That made consent at best questionable. Let me draw you a picture. Omar K's lawsuit says that the yacht trip that was meant to be a nice family vacation turned into something very different. She says that there was a steady flow of people who were thought to be sex workers and celebrities who were partying and using drugs. She even thought the drinks might have been messed with because women were acting very drunk after only a small amount of drinking. Do you know what that is? Since it should. It sounds a lot like what people have been saying in Diddy's hearing about his fame at Freakoffs, but let's go back to what happened with Christian. The lawsuit says that Christian was very drunk when he reportedly forced Omar to drink a shot of tequila, which she thought had been spiked with drugs. The case says that he then became violent, touched her inappropriately, and tried to make her do sexual acts against her will. Omar says she got out of the room when someone else from the crew came in. The next day, she told the yacht's captain about what happened, but she says that no investigation took place, possibly because Diddy paid the crew to keep quiet. Sense a pattern. Since it should. The way authorities say Diddy behaved for years was by using his power and money to prevent people from speaking out. At this point, it looks like a family business, and that's not the end of the proof. Remember how I said that Omar K's case has pictures of bruises? CNN checked a transcript of a supposedly recorded audio recording of her turning down Christian's advances and asking him if he was giving her drugs. It's not just a case of he said, she said. There is written proof to back up what she says. Now let's talk about something else that's important about this case. How other famous people reacted and how that affected Diddy's business and image. Ever since the claims became public, at least 18 companies and groups have cut ties with Diddy. This includes big businesses and organizations that used to work with him. Howard University took back the honored doctorate they gave him, and New York City asked him to return the key to the city they gave him. It's interesting that many of these brands didn't wait for the judge to decide. They did what they did based on how serious and true the accusations were, which says a lot. It seems to say that proof against Diddy is strong enough that big companies don't want to be linked to him until the case is over. What about Christian, though? What effects will these claims have on his job and reputation? So far, it looks like he's trying to keep up a normal front. But that will be harder and harder to do as more information comes out from both his father's trial and his own case. Molly McPherson, an image and crisis strategist, says that the Combs name is now a liability. From her point of view, any company that works with Diddy will lose out in the long run, so that also includes his children, especially those like Christian, who are being accused of other things. McPherson talks about how Diddy's brand, Bad Boy Records, represented an edgy energy, but now, that same energy is holding him up in the eyes of the public. She thinks that the Diddy name is permanently ruined and will not get better anytime soon. To be honest, if brands are staying away from Diddy, they won't want to work with his son either, who is also being accused of the same things. All of this could have a big effect on Christian's music career, no matter how his case or his father's trial turns out. But there's something more important to think about here than just the business consequences, the cost to people. If what is being said about Diddy and Christian is true, many people have been badly hurt. It doesn't just go away when the news stops talking about it. Omar says that the claimed incident with Christian caused him to have serious mental health problems, such as anxiety, panic attacks, an eating disorder, and seizures. In May 2023, she was fired from her job, which made her anxiety about money even worse. In the same way, Cassie Ventura talked about how the claimed abuse she went through changed her life. She said that being forced to take part in freak-offs made her feel useless and gross. It was said that she was thinking about suicide and would need trauma therapy in 2023. These are real people whose lives have been changed in big ways. And when Christian says that the people who testified in his father's trial were not important, he is ignoring their pain and grief. We'll now talk about some of the more complicated parts of this case. DJ Academics talked about how likely it was that Diddy would beat all of his charges and gave some interesting information. Do you believe he will win? Okay, so winning the case isn't always guilty, without a doubt not. I believe that he will be found guilty somewhere, but I don't believe that the top counts will matter or count right now. No way. That means the RICO would be the most important. Okay, fine, and there are things called one-man RICO. That's what Drew Filling and I talked about. He really did work for people who had one-man RICO. Academics makes a good point about one-man RICO, which helps us understand the charges against Diddy. The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, is a law that is usually used to go after organized crime. However, it can also be used against a person who runs an illegal business through a legitimate business. In Diddy's case, the police some say he used his huge business company, which included Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, and more, To help criminal activities, most RICO cases have more than one offender, but it is possible for there to be only one suspect and other people involved who have not been charged. This is significant because it means that Christian and other Diddy friends may not be directly charged in the federal case, but they may still be linked to the accused crime group. Due to the specific nature of Omar K's case against Christian, which also names Diddy, it makes people wonder how much Christian knew or didn't know about the alleged crimes. Additionally, Dawn Richard, who used to be in Danity Kind and Diddy Dirty Money, said in court that she saw Combs hit Ventura and described him as being angry and yelling about his lost phone. Ventura said Combs hit her in the head and beat her up on the ground. On top of that, Richard said that Combs hit Ventura with an egg-filled pan after asking where they were, making Ventura drop to the ground to protect herself. This evidence backs up Ventura's claims of being abused physically and helps show a pattern of behavior. Because of this trend, we can figure out where Christian grew up and what behaviors he might have seen and then taken on at his own. In Diddy's trial, the defense has tried to show that they are aware of his bad behavior, but not saying that it is a federal crime. They say that the fact that Diddy was a bad boyfriend who used drugs and couldn't handle his anger doesn't mean he was guilty of sex trafficking or crime. Now, Diddy's team quickly said, look, in their opening comments, to be honest, I thought they were weak. P. Diddy's group, I thought, okay, they admitted everything. They look, he was mad. He gets angry all the time. He could have used drugs and been a bad partner, you know. You are going to hear text messages and audios that make him sound like a terrible person. He may have been all the worst things you can think of when it comes to how he treated the women in his life. He's telling the truth, but these charges are not connected in any way. At the end of this case, you won't be able to look at him and say that because of any audio or video you see or anything we say now, they said it was true. So if he was violent toward his wife, we wouldn't be fighting today. It's interesting that the defense basically agrees that Diddy was cruel. They are, however, saying that abuse by itself does not represent sex trafficking or racketeering. They want to make a distinction between bad behavior and illegal behavior. One expert on the law said, I don't know if the jury will be able to separate the two. That is a good point. Will jurors really be able to tell the difference between the repeated patterns of abuse, pressure, and control when they hear about them? What does this all mean for Christian Combs? If Omar's father is found guilty, it could help his legal case against both Christian and Diddy. A trend of behavior would be shown, which would make her claims more believable to the jury. Also, if it turns out that Diddy did run an illegal business as claimed, it makes people wonder how much his children knew about or took part in these activities, especially those who worked closely with him like Christian. As the trial goes on, more information may come out that will help us understand how the Combs family works and whether Diddy's kids were involved in the alleged crime, its effects, and the future. First, let's talk about how things are now. Diddy's trial began on May 5, 2025, and it will likely go on for at least 8 weeks. That means the case is still very new, and there will be a lot more testimony and proof in the future. So far, the prosecution has made a strong case. Testimonies from Cassie Ventura, Daniel Phillip, Dawn Richard, and others paint a clear picture of Diddy as a controlling and abusive person who used his power to force people to take part in what he called freak-offs. The defense isn't giving up, though. They agree that Diddy has done bad things, but they say that it's not a federal crime like sex trafficking or terrorism. They're making Diddy look like a difficult man who does naughty adult things, not a criminal, by fighting the more important charges while giving in on the less serious ones. It's a risky plan that might work with some jurors. It seems like they're trying to be fair and honest, but will that be enough to stop the growing evidence against Diddy? That's it. Because it's not important you're taking a prostitute with you. She needs to be paid. She does something that's okay with her. Hit back. The end. It's already set up that way. Say hello to the Swingingers. We were sometimes out of town. We didn't see any other pairs. It was just a flight with some hookers. Yes, we likely flew them to places where prostitution was against the law. Also, that is a federal charge. Okay, his image won't be good compared to what he's been accused of. It's kind of weird. Cool. It's an interesting point of view that fits with the defense's plan. If they can show the jury that Diddy's strange behavior was voluntary and not forced, they might be able to get him off of the more serious charges like sex trafficking and crime. But Diddy could still spend up to 10 years in jail, even if he is only found guilty of lesser charges like providing transportation for sexual acts, money, and since he's 54 years old, even a shorter sentence would take up a lot of his time left. Also, if Diddy is found guilty, it will probably hurt the Mez family's reputation even more, which will make it harder for Christian to keep up his music business in the public eye. Is Diddy able to get back from this? It's very hard because the name, whether it's P. Diddy or Sean Combs, is now a problem. Right now and in the future, any business that works with Diddy will lose money. I'm talking about Bad Boy Records. He has a lot of other names too. He's helped a lot of people get ahead. This business, are they all bad because of his name now? Yes. It's interesting to think about how Sean Combs became famous. He really lived up to his brand, which was Bad Boy Entertainment and Bad Boy Records. It's all about how the artist shows that energy, that edgy energy. This is very important. The Combs brand was built on an edgy vibe that used to be attractive, but now that vibe is poisonous because of the serious accusations, and it affects everyone who is connected with the Combs name, even Christian. This is already happening. Ever since the claims became public, at least 18 companies and groups have cut ties with Diddy. His business company, which was once worth about $1 billion, is falling apart right in front of our eyes. This is a big problem for Christian, who has been trying to make a name for himself as King Combs. How can you make a name for yourself as an artist when your family name is bad? How can you separate yourself from the crimes your father is accused of when you are accused of the same things? Being in this situation is tough, but Christian seems to be able to handle it. Not great, to be honest. He didn't seem to understand how serious the situation was when he said, "They ain't talking about nothing in court." But there's a bigger question about responsibility and accountability here than just what this means for Christian's future. The accusations against Diddy and Christian must be true because they have hurt many people seriously, and that harm must be recognized and fixed. Denial and rejection are what we're seeing instead. It looks like people are trying to downplay serious accusations and discredit victims. We see a family lining up behind each other to protect their own interests instead of taking responsibility for what they do. It's possible. There you have it. That was a bad position for the state. That's why I think the government needs to lock in. It will be all or nothing there. It would be embarrassing if you beat us up if you don't agree to this pre-trial plea. We will either go for straight sentence and jail time, or you will beat us up. Nobody is above the law, not even the rich and popular Diddy. If he is found guilty, that message gets across. It sends a message to other powerful people in the business that they can't abuse their power to take advantage of others without getting caught. But if Diddy is found not guilty despite strong proof against him, it will support the idea that rich and famous people have different rules. It tells victims that the image of a celebrity is more important than their own voice. It's also very important for Christian Combs. If he is found guilty in Omar K's case, it could mean the end of his career before it even starts. But what's more important is that it suggests that the ways of acting that were said to have been inherited from his father. The most upsetting thing about all of this is that bad behavior could become accepted and be passed down from generation to generation. What did Christian learn about how to treat others from seeing women as things to be used and thrown away as he grew up? What did he learn from seeing his father use his power to quiet victims? This isn't just a guess. It has been found that kids who see abuse are more likely to hurt others themselves. It can be hard to break the loop if it isn't recognized and dealt with. However, to break that cycle, one must take responsibility for their behaviors and genuinely try to change. We haven't seen that from Christian or anyone else in the Combs family so far. If Diddy's own lawyers are admitting that he did some things wrong, it's getting harder and harder for Christian or anyone else to say that the accusations aren't true. The people is also aware of this. Based on the facts and testimony that is being given, they are making decisions. That's going to change how they feel about Christian and the rest of the Combs family. And once the damage is done in the court of public opinion, it's hard to fix. If you like this video, make sure to look at the other cards that come up on your screen to find more like it. You're going to stop by my party. They are going to break them down. They are likely going to arrest me. Diddy knew he was going to be arrested. What he didn't expect, though, was how quickly his power would fall apart. Diddy isn't going down by himself now that he has his back to the wall. In court, he's calling people out and bringing Hollywood into the fire. You won't believe who he just showed on the stand. Trust me. Let's start. people in the public eye stuck in the middle. One day, we'll call people by names other than Sean Combs. There are a lot of names. It's already a long list. I already know some of these people, but because of how this case works, we're going to make damn sure we're right before we do that. Someone from the legal team talking about how they're going to name more people besides Diddy in the end, and then he drops this big secret. What we're going to say about the names, though, if our detectives confirm and back up what we've been told, will shock you. This is the first group we'll talk about, the people who are directly being sued. Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, is one of the most well-known. A civil case filed in December 2024 says that Jay-Z and Diddy drugged a 13-year-old girl at a party after the MTV VMA in 2000. It's important to remember that being named in a case doesn't mean you're guilty. Jay-Z has shot down these claims many times. Then there was director and reality TV star Stevie J. He was named in Rodney Jones's $30 million case, which was filed in February 2024, and says Diddy used Stevie to get Jones to do gay things. Stevie J has said that he didn't see anything wrong. Aaron Hall, an R&B singer, is another name that has come up for sexually assaulting Lisa Gardner, who was 16 years old at the time. In 1990, he was named as a defendant in a lawsuit filed in November 2023 in New York Supreme Court. The lawsuit was brought under New York's Adult Survivors Act, which let victims make claims that were past due before. In two different lawsuits from 2003, Harve Pierre, who used to be the head of Bad Boy Records, is accused of grooming, exploiting, gang, and sex trafficking a 17-year-old girl. He has refuted these claims. Rodriguez Jones Jr., who goes by the stage name Lil Rod and is also known as Cuba Gooding Jr., accused Gooding of harassing and attacking Diddy on his boat. You should know that Gooding has already pleaded guilty to forced touching in a different case. The NFL player Odell Beckham Jr. and the comedian Drusky are two new names on the list. All three of them were named as defendants in an amended complaint made on March 7, 2025, by Ashley Pum and two other people who were not named. On social media, both have rejected the claims. Jones has said that Diddy's son, Justin Dorcomez, aspired to work with young girls and was present at a shooting. His lawyer said that these claims are crazy. It was seen that Justin was handcuffed during one of the raids on Diddy's homes, but he wasn't arrested. Jacob the jeweler, whose real name is Jacob Arabo, is the second one. In a lawsuit filed in July 2024, Adria English said that he pushed her to have sex with Diddy at white parties. English says she saw him take drugs at these events. Jacob has been convicted of money laundering before, but he hasn't said anything about these claims. Here we will talk about the famous people who aren't being sued but have been named in these cases. Young Miami, one half of the City Girls, is said to have been involved in Diddy's alleged drug-dealing business, bringing drugs and getting paid every month to do sex work. Rodney Jones is also said to have been groped by her cousin. Representatives for Young Miami haven't said anything about these claims. It is said that Kenna Harper, who used to be in Diddy's group Diddy Dirty Money, saw Diddy beat Cassie Ventura and later told Ventura to leave. Combs is said to have called and texted her 58 times after Ventura filed her case. Harper said in an Instagram post that some of these claims are false. Jimmy Iovine, co-founder of Intercope Records, is said to have seen Diddy punch Ventura at a dinner, but Intercope still made a deal with Diddy. Iovine hasn't said anything about these claims. The CEO of Universal Music Group, Lucien Grange, was first named as a defendant accused of helping with drug dealing and racketeering. But in May 2024, he was taken off the list of defendants without prejudice. Grange said the claims were offensively false and asked the court to throw out the case. Don't forget about the famous people who have been named but aren't being charged with anything. One of the strangest names to come up is Prince Harry. He is named in Rodney Jones's lawsuit, which says that Combs' friends got to talk to him, but the prince is not specifically accused of anything. Nicki Minaj is named briefly, but no wrongdoing is claimed in connection with a Philadelphia rapper who dated her. We already heard that Usher lived with Diddy when he was a teenager. He is said to have been at a dinner where abuse was seen, but no wrongdoing is said to have happened. Bishop T.D. Jakes isn't accused of anything, but his name is in Jones's document, which says Combs wants to use their friendship to lessen the effects of Cassie's case. Several other names have also been brought up in different situations. These include the Georgia Mass Choir, Donald Lawrence, the Clark Sisters, and Smokokie Norfolk. These people are named because they have worked with Jones professionally and are not being accused of any crime. People who wanted to be on the board were shown a list with even more famous names on it, like Michael B. They are Michael Mayers, Michelle Williams, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London, Don Richard, and Dallas Austin. They're not guilty just because of this. It's just to make sure that jurors don't have any ties to or preferences about people who might be in trial. People are going crazy on social media about another part of this story. The list that is called Diddy. People like Leonardo DiCaprio, Beyonce, Ashton Kutcher, Paris Hilton, Howard Stern, Russell Brand, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, Usher, and Megan Fox are on a list that has gone popular online. It's important to note, though, that this list is based on nothing but speculation and not on actual legal proceedings. On May 6, 2025, people who wanted to be on the board were shown a list of at least 190 names, such as Michael B. Jordan, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Mike Mayers, Michelle Williams, Lauren London, Don Richard, and Dallas Austin. Some specific connections that have been made are that Michael B. Jordan dated Cassie Ventura in 2015, which reportedly made Diddy mad, and Kid Cudi was allegedly the victim of a Diddy planned car bombing in 2011 while dating Ventura. Others don't have a clear connection, and their presence suggests that they might have been mentioned during the trial, but not directly involved. A lot of media attention has been paid to the Diddy case because of the famous people who are involved. Some lawyers, like Naima Romani, head of West Coast trial lawyers, have said that people who went to Diddy's freak-offs could be witnesses or co-defendants. This has caused a lot of talk and activity on social media. For example, Usher and Megan Fox are said to be deleting posts, which makes it look like they're trying to clean up their image. One more thing you should know. In January 2025, Kambez sued Courtney Burgess for $50 million for defamation because Burgess was said to have videos of Kambez abusing children, including famous people. Burgess, his lawyer Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation are all named in this case because they reported these claims, which Kambez denies are malicious lies. But this is about Kambez suing for libel, not him going after famous people in court. That is a clip from an interview in which Diddy is asked if he has anything to say, and he looks awkward. It was like this before all the trouble started, but now that it has, it hits differently. As you may have seen, there are other websites that have lists with even more famous names. A Diddy list going around the internet has names like Howard Stern, Paris Hilton, Beyonce, Russell Brand, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, Russell Simmons, and Megan Fox on it, but here is the tea. There are no court papers or other reliable sources to back up these lists. These ideas come from people who have been seen at Diddy's parties over the years. What does this mean for these famous people? Well, lawyers like Naima Romani, head of West Coast trial lawyers, have said that people who went to Diddy's parties could be witnesses or co-defendants. This has caused a lot of talk on social media, and some famous people, like Usher and Megan Fox, are said to have deleted posts about it. But we need to keep in mind that being sued or listed in court papers does not mean you are guilty. Due process is something everyone should get, and people shouldn't jump to conclusions about accusations that haven't been proven in court. We need to talk about the major charges Diddy is facing right now, which have shocked Hollywood and the music business. Inside Diddy's very public federal trial, Sean Diddy Kambez, the hip-hop mogul who has been in charge since the 90s, is in jail and is getting a lot of heat. The trial began on May 5, 2025 in Manhattan Federal Court when the jury was chosen. People are talking in the streets, you guys. Charges like trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation for prostitutes are being talked about. He could spend the rest of his life in prison if he is found guilty of that crap. Do you remember where this mess came from when Diddy's ex-girl friend Cassie Ventura sued him in November 2023? She said he had abused her for years. That case was quickly solved like the next day, but it set off a chain of events. Since then, more than 63 civil lawsuits have been made against Diddy, and more than 100 people say they have a grudge against him that goes back to 1991. I moved to New York City and spent a year living with Sean Puffy Combs. That's what's crazy. I thought that was L.A. Reid's idea. You are being sent to a place called Puffy Flavor Camp. That is Usher talking about the time he lived with Diddy when he was a kid. Crazy, huh? L.A. Reid really did send a young Usher to D.I.A. Flavor Camp. That's it. To learn about some favorite camp, that was its name, you are going to Puff Daddy's. When Usher moved in with Diddy, he was very young, and he saw some things that scared him. But this isn't just about wild parties. In March 2024, the FBI searched Diddy's homes in both Los Angeles and Miami as part of an investigation into sex work. Then in September 2024, he was charged with crimes at the federal level. Since then, he has been locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The judge wouldn't let Diddy out on bail because he was a major flight risk. At this point in time, jury picking is still going on as of May 8, 2025. So far, they've qualified about 45 possible jurors, and they hope to have a final jury with peremptory strikes on May 9th. The first comments should begin on Monday, May 12th, if everything goes as planned. But this is what's making the internet go crazy. During the jury screening process, people who wanted to serve were shown a list of at least 190 names, which included Michael B., Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Michael Jordan, and more. It doesn't mean that these stars did something bad or that Diddy is putting them out there. Making sure that jurors don't have any ties or biases to people who might come up in the hearing is just normal practice. Let's talk about what these freak-off parties were said to be. From what the prosecutor says, these weren't just any turn-ups. They were said to be complicated sexual acts fueled by drugs that Diddy allegedly planned with threats to silence victims and pressure. The indictment says that all of this was part of a criminal operation that ran from 2004 to 2024, and that Diddy's friends and employees did everything from kidnapping and forced labor to setting fires, taking bribes, and getting in the way of the law. If Diddy is found guilty, he will spend a lot of time in prison. A conviction for racketeering could lead to life in prison. A conviction for sex trafficking could mean at least 15 years in prison. And a conviction for transportation for prostitution could mean up to 10 years. Things aren't going to easy for Diddy and his lawyers, though. In March 2025, he pleaded not guilty to the new charges against him. They are also trying to get the transportation charge dropped, saying it is unfair because of his race and that the law has racist roots. They say he lived like a swinger and not like a thief. They turned down a plea deal too, which shows they are sure they can win this case. Now, let's look at what this case means, how people have responded, and what it could mean for the entertainment business going forward. What it all means and the truth behind the hype. That being said, let's talk about these Diddy lists that are going around on social media. Some people are connecting them to the Epstein list, but they're not at all the same. There is a difference between these Diddy lists and the Epstein list. The Epstein list was based on real court papers and flight logs. Some crazy posts making all sorts of claims may have been seen on X, which used to be Twitter. For example, The Afoot Do said in a post that Diddy had sex tapes with 8 celebrities, some of whom were minors. This claim has not been proven and has not been mentioned in any court processes. In the same way, At Awakened Outlaw talked about lawsuits that named famous people. But again, there is no court proof to back up these claims. In fact, Diddy sued Courtney Burgess for $50 million in January 2025 for defamation because Burgess said she had videos of sexually assaulting children, including celebrities. Burgess, his lawyer Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation are all named in this case because they reported these claims, which Kamalmas denies are malicious lies. This means that Diddy is suing people for making these kinds of claims, not proving them. Here is a list of what we know from the court papers and the legal procedures. 5 federal charges are being brought against Diddy in this trial. 1 charge of racketeering, 2 charges of sex trafficking, and 2 charges of transporting someone to work as a prostitute. The jury picking process will go on until May 12, 2025, so the trial should last at least 8 weeks. The accusations are mostly about what authorities call freak-off parties. These are supposedly elaborate drug-fueled sexual performances that Diddy planned, where victims were forced to stay quiet and were threatened with violence. From 2004 to 2024, the indictment says Diddy's friends and workers were involved in a criminal operation that did different kinds of crimes. When police raided Diddy's homes in March 2024, they took more than 100 electronic devices and talked to more than 50 witnesses. Federal charges were brought in September 2024 based on information from these raids. Diddy has said he is not guilty and will continue to do so. His lawyers said that he lived like a swinger and not like a criminal, and they turned down a plea deal. They are also trying to get the transportation for prostitution charge dropped, saying that it is unfairly against him because of his race and that the law has racist roots. What about all of these famous people whose names have been brought up? As we've seen, some of them are named as defendants in different cases. Some are brought up as witnesses or in passing, while others are only on lists that possible jurors see to see if they have any biases. Even so, none of this means Diddy is showing them off. As a lawyer, I have to do this sometimes. We should talk about how all of this affects hip-hop and the entertainment business as a whole. People are really talking about power, abuse, and responsibility in the music business because of this case. It's also made people think about the party lifestyle that hip-hop has praised for decades. Let's also talk about how these accusations came to be. Present federal charges were made public in September 2024, but Cassie Ventura made the first big public accusation in November 2023. Her claim said she had been raped and abused violently for years. The case was settled for an unknown amount just one day after it was filed, but the damage had already been done. Video from 2016 that showed Diddy kicking Ventura in a hotel stairwell got out in 2024, making things even worse. Diddy apologized to the public and said, "I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now," but by that time, more victims had come forward. As of April 2025, there were allegedly 63 civil lawsuits against Diddy. Since 1991, more than 100 people have either made claims or planned to file claims. 10 more cases were filed in February 2025, before the deadline for New York's Gender-Motivated Violence Act, which let victims file claims that were no longer time-barred. A lot of media has been covering the case. Documentaries like Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy on Peacock, will start airing in January 2025, and podcasts like BBC Sound's Diddy on Trial and ABC Audio's Bad Rap, the case against Diddy, will keep doing so. But no matter how this trial turns out, it has already had a big effect on how we think about power, fame, and responsibility in the entertainment business. It's caused important talks about how to keep vulnerable people safe and make the music business safer. This case isn't just about Diddy, that's for sure. The story is about a system that reportedly let abuse and exploitation happen for decades. There was a lawyer in the case who said, "The names we're going to name will shock you. The full truth may still be coming out. What can we expect from the trial as it goes on if the jury selection goes smoothly?" It looks like the opening comments will start on Monday, May 12, 2025. There will likely be a lot of witnesses and a lot of evidence, so the hearing should last a long time. We might learn more about the accusations, the proof that supports them, and maybe even more about the famous people named in the legal documents as the trial goes on. Because the case is so well known, there will probably be a lot more media attention in the future. But as responsible information users, it's important to only trust information from reliable sources and think critically about what you read. There are serious accusations in this case that, if proven true, involve real people who have been hurt. When there is a lot of drama around a famous case, it's important to remember that people are involved. As for what could happen, Gomez gets harsh punishments if he is found guilty. Racketeering can get you life in jail. For sex trafficking, the minimum sentence is 15 years, and the highest sentence for transporting people to work as prostitutes is 10 years. In the U.S., however, it's important to remember that everyone is considered innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The government will have to prove its case, and the jury will decide if the evidence meets this high bar. 8. Let's get real. Not only Diddy was getting heat when his name came up in court, but so was everyone else. Some of celebrities on the list could be in a lot of legal trouble if those claims are true. The feds may show up if you are named as a defendant or charged of doing dirt. Just being linked to such a crazy case, though, is bad for your image, and it's not easy to get back on track. You see, how you look is very important in this business. Suddenly, you have empty red carpets and soul doubt shows and brands stop working with you. Fans stop caring about you, and your name starts to trend for all the wrong reasons. And some of these famous people were only named briefly. They may not be breaking the law, but people still look at you funny when your name is mixed up like this. Take a step back and see the big picture. It's not just about Diddy. If what's being said is true, Everyone in the business needs to take responsibility for the shady things that have been going on behind closed doors. We're sick of the power games being quiet. There are calls for real change and rights for the ones who are coming up, who are often used and thrown away. You should know that Diddy's lawyers say the charges are based on race. They blame the old rules that are still in effect, which have racist roots. That does bring up a real issue, even if it doesn't hold up in court. We've seen how the law treats people differently based on who they are. It's not a new thing, but this case brings it back into the light. But don't get it wrong. There is real pain and suffering beneath all the drama. There are people who say they went through hell. We need to keep our attention on what's important while the media hypes up every turn like it's a story. Pick facts over rumors and truth over noise. What do you think about the famous people who were named in the Diddy case? Do you think that the truth will soon come out? Leave your thoughts in the box below.